still the best performance I've probably seen all year was Djokovic in that Olympics final. But I don't think he's ever going to be that motivated for anything again in his entire career. Like an extra slam would be great. It would be a real bonus. But I think an Olympic gold was a need. It was if he hadn't got that, his career wouldn't have been complete. And it is complete now. And he doesn't have that edge in these matches. And he needs that edge to beat Alcaraz and Sinner right now. And, so he's trying new things, isn't he? Like even just looking at the teams, you've got Djokovic's former team sitting in Sinner's box right there is kind of a sign of how things have changed as well. And Djokovic has got this guy, Carlos Gomez Herrera, who he played doubles with once and is receiving instruction from in Spanish. It's kind of like Djokovic's Spanish has got that good that he's able to get on-court coaching in Spanish and give it back in Spanish. But it just points to a guy at a different stage of his career right now. And the T-shirt for the 100th title, which I'm sure was there, has to stay in the bag. And whether Djokovic is able to find any kind of motivation that's similar to what he had at the Olympics, I think is the big question now. And also, we have to take into the context of Nadal retiring. Like, I genuinely think that has an impact on Djokovic. He gave a great quote this week saying, part of me leaves with them. Talking about Federer and Nadal and Murray all retiring recently. And if he doesn't have payoff, I think, in the first half of next year, I think he's going to feel a bit lonely, like out there, without his biggest rivals. He's got these two new, younger rivals who at this stage he's struggling to beat. I think next year for Novak Djokovic is going to be so interesting. And I'm kind of leaning towards, we might not be seeing Novak Djokovic for much beyond next year. That's kind of just how it feels to me right now.
Yeah, this match gave me a very similar takeaway, actually, because it made me think about the Nadal retirement and how it would impact Novak Djokovic. And, a year ago, less than a year ago, 9 months ago, maybe even 6 months ago, we and Novak Djokovic were so invigorated by his new intergenerational rivalries, by his new rivalries with Jannik Sinner and in particular Carlos Alcaraz. They were filling the big three void for us, and I think for Novak Djokovic, or big four void, depending on what period of time you want to look at. And those aren't feeling so much like rivalries anymore. I'm not saying Novak Djokovic will never beat Sinner or Alcaraz again, but their matches feel very heavily in the favour of the younger players, pretty much consistently now. So I think that leaves a bit of an emptiness for Novak Djokovic. And yeah, I think the whole of the rest of his career, however long that is, rests now on how much motivation he can manufacture for 25. Because at the moment, it doesn't sound to me, from how he talks about that Olympic gold, and he's still talking about that Olympic gold at every chance he gets. It doesn't sound to me like 25 is on his mind that much. A 25th Grand Slam, it feels like it would be a bonus, and I don't think a bonus is going to give Novak Djokovic the edge he needs to compete with the youth. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see all the logic of what you're saying. I still feel and could imagine a scenario where he gets defiance from that feeling that it's no longer in his grasp. You know what I mean? I could almost imagine him thinking, okay, well, now I've got my reason. It's because I'm being written off again. And I'm going to show you all one last time. I could imagine him getting motivation from that. But I think the other factor that has to be considered is his body. I don't think his body is necessarily reliable enough for him to pull that off. I think that's an unknown. But the way his knee went at the French Open, and the way he's had it patched up ever since, and he's looked a bit clunky really the last couple of times we've seen him. He's got through and he's managed to, I mean, he won the Olympics, but it was best of three. You know, you have to factor that in. He was able to get that edge because he got, I'm sure, this huge motivation, but also that quite near finish line. Whereas in the best of five, my God, it's tough to do that if you can't completely rely on your body. And it's asking a lot, isn't it, to expect that somebody of his age is going to be able to rebuild again to carry it out. So I do feel that we could see another comeback and another sort of moment where he's because he's still got that loose arm when he finds his form. But I just wondered then, I then wouldn't be surprised if another body part gave way, because at some point that's surely going to happen. Surely.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, actually. Djokovic is more physically depleted than he used to be. And I think the Olympics was a kind of perfect setup in that it was best of three, and it was also, he was able to get those days off between matches at the end, which was the crucial stage. Here, he's playing those matches consecutively, and I think there was some hangover from the Fritz semi-final where he really was struggling in those latter stages. I think if he'd lost that second set, he might well have lost the match. He then had to come back the next day and play Sinner. And okay, he gets the day off at the slams, that is going to be helpful for him. But then you've got the 5 sets, which at this stage, I think, certainly when he comes up against Alcaraz, it's a big tick in Alcaraz's column when he faces Djokovic now, 5 sets. I think Sinner's 5-set record has still got to be proved a little bit. There's that whole stat of him never having won a match over 4 hours. If it gets really long, I think we've still got some question marks over Sinner. But yeah, I do think the level can still be there for Djokovic. We did see it at the Olympics when he was that motivated and when it was sort of perfect for him sort of physically. And I think even in this match against Sinner, I thought he was kind of the better player through the first set. He was doing the thing that I just said Sinner was doing in terms of finding his spots on serve, and Djokovic was doing all of that. And if he can go up the line early against Sinner, that really helps him not be caught in a sort of trading relentless ground strokes. And he was doing that well. He just kind of blew the tie break in a way that he never used to do. So. Look, I do, as David said, never write the guy off. And if anyone can find some reason to get some more motivation or to be defiant, it is Novak Djokovic. But I do think it needs to come sooner rather than later. If he's not won any of, it's the first half of next year for me. If he goes through Australia, Roland Garros and Wimbledon without either beating Alcaraz or Sinner in one of those or lifting the title, I think we're then really potentially starting to see the end.